Okay, hello everybody. Thank you all so much for being here with me for our monthly Q&A for the month of May. Hard to believe it is almost the end of May. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Angela Harders. I used to be a public school teacher, and I left school in order to unschool my own kids and to help other families to do the same thing. And so once a month, we do these free Q&As where people are able to come and we get to hang out together and talk all about unschooling, because this is one of my favorite things to talk about. And the unschooling philosophy has completely transformed my life and my family. And I love being able to share this beautiful gift with each of you. And so thank you guys so much for investing your time and effort and energy to be here with me tonight. This really is just an informal time for me to be able to answer whatever questions you may have about unschooling. We're a smaller group tonight, which is pretty nice. So if you do have questions about unschooling, you can either unmute yourself and ask your question, or if you prefer, you can type your questions in the chat. And then as we're talking throughout the evening, if there are other questions that come up for you, you are more than welcome to type them in the chat, and then I'll be sure to answer them as as they come up. So I want to make sure that I can get to as many questions as we can before 9 o'clock. All right. So who would like to kick us off? Who has, or I guess, what is a question that you have or something that you would like to know about unschooling?
Yes, hi. I live in Texas, and my son just finished second grade public school.
Uh-huh.
And so I'm a little bit confused on the withdrawal form if I decide to enroll him in PAX Academy. Now, he's on summer vacation right now, so he's not enrolled right now. So does that mean that I have to still fill out the withdrawal form?
Yeah, so even though your children aren't going to school, they're still considered enrolled in school, and they will be considered enrolled in school until you withdraw them. So even though they're on summer break, they're still enrolled in the school wherever they were until the moment that you go in and you tell them, hi, I'm withdrawing my kid from school. Bye. And every school has a different form or a different process that they have for going through withdrawals. Some have like an online form. Some of them will have a form that you have to fill out and sign. So every school is different in how they process withdrawals. But actually, you're very fortunate because Texas is one of the easiest states to be able to unschool in.
Okay, so they will have the form for me to fill out with the school
Um,
district?
they should. So when you talk to the school, you'll just let them know. So you'll say, hi, my name is, whatever your name is. And you let them know I'm the mother of whatever your children's names are. And you'll say, hey, I'm here because I would like to withdraw them and I'm going to homeschool them. And that's it. And then they'll let you know, like, hey, here's the form that we need you to sign, or they'll say, hey, you got to, pay these fines or something, or you return your books or your Chromebook or whatever it may be. And every school will have their own process, but they'll let you know. It's something that they handle a lot. And so I would not mention that you're unschooling because most schools are not familiar with that term. I would mention the term that they're familiar with, which is homeschooling. So I would just say, hey, I'm going to withdraw my child and we're going to homeschool. And
Okay,
they'll
thank you
let you
so
know.
much. Yes. Well, I'm full of questions, but I do have a meeting set up on the June 3rd, I believe. But
Awesome. Of
if I can ask one more question. Now
course.
I did visit your enrollment page, and
Yeah.
one of the requirements is to upload a transcript or academic records. Now he's only in what, going to third grade. So he should not have a transcript at this time, right? Only high school students do? Is that right?
Everyone has a transcript. Some places will call it like the report card, or their transcript. You might know it by different names, but everyone has a transcript. If they're coming from a school, then after you enroll with PAX Academy, we'll actually reach out to the school and we'll request the transcript from them. So you don't have to worry about getting that if you don't want to, but some parents already have all those documents. And so sometimes it's nice when they could just kind of upload it all at the same time. But if you don't have it, that's totally fine. We'll request those documents from the
I
school.
see. Okay. Now I don't have a transcript. I do have report cards, so I can upload those to you.
Yep. Yeah. If you have any of
Okay.
like their previous grades that they've gotten for previous years, that's what we're looking for.
Okay.
So that way we can
Okay.
transfer whatever they've done already. We'll transfer that into our school.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you for being here. All right. And I see we got a question in the chat. Kat said, hi, Angela, can you describe your experience with unschooling and what made you choose that path? What does a typical day look like when unschooling? So to answer your first question, what made me choose this path? It's kind of ironic how I started unschooling. Many of you know I used to be a public school teacher. I've taught everything from kindergarten through 12th grade. I'm certified in Spanish, ESOL, and special education. So I've kind of seen a lot within the world of schooling. And because I've seen so much within the schools, I also got to see what happens behind the scenes. A lot of the really bad stuff that happens in schools that most parents aren't aware of just because you're not on the other side of the classroom door. And so I saw a lot of the really awful things that happen behind the scenes in a school. And I knew that I didn't want my daughter to be in that kind of a toxic environment. And when my daughter was 4, she actually went to public pre-K for a couple months. And, I'm a single mom, so I had to work, and I just thought, well, I can't homeschool because I'm a single mom and I have to work. And so she went to public pre-K. She had a pretty bad experience with the public pre-K, which surprised me. I figured, how can you mess up preschool? They just go and play all day. That should be the easy part, but you can ruin preschool. And my daughter would come home telling me that the kids were really mean. They would say bad words. They would be, bullying one another. And her teacher was screaming at the students, and she just had a really bad experience. And so I finally decided to pull her out of school. The day that she came home, she had marks on her wrist from her teacher. And she said that her teacher had grabbed her really hard and had dragged her to timeout because she was laughing during a movie with one of her friends. And so after that happened, that was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back for me. And I was like, nope, we're not going back to this anymore. And that was like in January, I want to say. So I just like pulled her out and never went back. I originally, my intention, of course, was to do school at home. And in fact, I joke now, like it's so silly looking back on it, but my plan was to basically recreate doing school at home. I made this beautiful little color coordinated schedule, and we were going to do 30 minutes of math and 30 minutes of reading and 30 minutes of science and 30 minutes of social studies. And I was even going to pack her a lunch. Like I got her a lunch box and a backpack, like so she could go from her room to the kitchen table where we would do her schoolwork. And I was like so excited to do school at home with her. And I was really proud of myself. I had even planned for her to have 30 whole minutes of recess. The public school kids only got 15 minutes, but my daughter was going to get 30 minutes of recess. What an awesome mom I was. And looking back on that, I'm like, oh gosh, how silly, how silly that was of me to think that way. But thank God I never actually got to go through with that plan, because I commented in a Facebook group, and I asked a group of homeschooling moms, I said, if you could give one piece of advice to a new homeschooling mom, what would it be? And that was my question. And I got hundreds of comments back. And there was one comment in particular that stuck out to me. It was one mom, I wish that I could remember who she was. She said 2 words. She said, research unschooling. And that was it. That was what kind of sent me down the rabbit trail of learning about learning and learning about school, learning about self-directed education, learning about this philosophy. And it was during that year or so, it was a very awkward time for me, because I was learning about unschooling. I was reading books, I was reading articles, I was listening to podcasts, watching documentaries. I was just inundating myself with all of this knowledge about unschooling, talking to unschoolers, interviewing unschoolers. And at the same time, I was going to school every day, and I was teaching Algebra 2 in a high school. And so it was this weird dichotomy that I was learning about the incredible things that happen when we give children freedom in their education to learn what they love and learn what's meaningful and valuable for them, while at the same time I was going to school every day and forcing kids to learn Algebra 2, stuff that they would never need in their actual life. And so it was a very weird dichotomy for me for a while. But what inspired me to really choose unschooling as my path was really my curiosity, my own curiosity. I was intrigued by this idea that kids could learn without being forced. I didn't think it was possible. And yet I kept hearing unschoolers tell me that they did, that their kids taught themselves how to read without ever being explicitly taught, without ever having a phonics lesson. And I was like, there's no way. I was a reading teacher. Reading is hard, and we have to force them, and we have to practice, and it's difficult and challenging, and they feel miserable about it. And I have to pick the perfect level reader. If it's not the perfect level, they're never going to get it. And like I had all these schooled ideas about how reading happens. And then I kept hearing all these stories of unschoolers saying, no, they learned how to read as naturally as they learned to walk and talk. And so my own curiosity to see, is it really possible that kids could learn without being forced to learn? That was my big question the first year that I started unschooling. And so, yeah, so that was what made me start to choose this path. I didn't choose it outright. I decided I would just try it for a year and see. I figured it's kindergarten. I can't ruin her too bad. So we try it for kindergarten and see how it go. And if at the end of the year, if it was terrible, I could always send her back to school. But if at the end of the year it was wonderful, awesome, praise God. We'd figured something out. And by the end of that year, I mean, my mind was blown, my jaw was on the floor. I was like, this is the best thing ever. I wish every parent knew that they could experience a life full of joy and freedom like this. And so, yeah, so 5.5 years later, here we are. And to answer the second part of your question, what does a typical day look like when unschooling? I tell people that a typical day unschooling looks like, if you could imagine your favorite Saturday or your best vacation ever, that's what a typical day is like. It's like your favorite Saturday or the best vacation you've ever been on. Whatever you would do on your best Saturday or your favorite vacation, that's what you would do on a daily basis. And that's what it looks like. Yeah, great question. All right. Let me see. Domitila said, will students in PAX Academy get all the credits that they need to graduate? Yeah, so the way that we do graduation in PAX Academy is the beautiful thing about PAX Academy is that there's nothing that's required. Everything is optional, and you are free to really customize your child's education based on their unique needs, their unique talents, their unique skills, their unique goals. Everyone has different goals for their own life, so everyone's education is going to be different. That's how it should be, because we're different people. So it doesn't make sense that we would force everyone to use a curriculum, because not everyone is going to need everything that's in the same curriculum. The things that you need to know as an adult to be successful in your life are different than the things that I have to know to be successful in mine, and that's okay. And it's the same for your kids. So they do earn credits. We model our recommendations off of what they require here in the state of Maryland, which is where PAX Academy was originally founded. And I base our recommendations off of what most colleges would like to see. So for example, most colleges want to see 4 years of a math. There are some colleges that don't, though. There are some colleges that are okay with 3 years of a math. So it all depends on where your child's trying to go afterwards, right? Some colleges want to see 2 years of a language, some want to see 3, some, every place is different. So we take a really individualized approach to looking at your child and what their specific goals are, to see, okay, where do you want to go in your life after this phase of your life, after, you finish high school? What is next on that path for you? And then what is the best way that you can prepare yourself to get there? What do you have to do to get to where you want to go in your life? And it's going to look different for everyone. So we recommend 22 credits. They can absolutely earn all of those credits with us. We provide 3 different ways for kids to earn credits. And ironically enough, they're the same 3 ways that people can earn credits in college. And those 3 ways are, number 1, they could take a class. This might surprise you, but there are some unschoolers that really want to learn by taking a class. I see this a lot, especially when it comes to like preparing for math for college, because a lot of the college math, most of the college math, isn't showing up in their actual life. So if they're planning to go to college, a lot of unschoolers will say, okay, if I want to go to college, I have to pass a math test. And in order for me to pass a math test, I have to learn algebra. How do I want to learn algebra? I guess I'll take an online algebra class or something like that. Some of them will say, okay, I want to learn algebra. I'm going to hire a private tutor, or I'm going to go to Barnes and Noble and do practice tests on the books there, or I'm going to check out a book from the library, or I'm going to do like an intensive study and try to take a test and pass out of it. So there's so many different ways that they can earn the credits and prepare themselves for where they want to go. So taking a class is one. I mentioned the second one, they could take a test. A lot of unschoolers do this as well, because taking a class is the most traditional way, but it takes the longest. It's really time intensive. Whereas if they can, they have a couple different options for testing, where they basically, if you take a test and you pass, then you earn the credit. And so a lot of unschoolers will just study for a couple weeks. Some of them have to study for a couple months. And so they'll study for, a couple weeks or a couple months, pass the test, earn the credits, and move on. And then the last way that they can earn credits with us, which is our specialty, is through doing what I call taking your time. And colleges refer to this as portfolio credit. But basically, that is credit from your real life, real world experience. And it literally could be anything that you could possibly think of. It could be a job, it could be a hobby, it could be movies that they've watched, books that they've read independently on their own, volunteer service that they've done. Literally anything that your child has done over the course of their life, they can use that to earn academic credits, both in high school and at the college level. So yeah, they can earn credits in all three of those ways through PAX Academy. All
I
right.
have a few
Angela.
questions.
Oh,
I'm sorry, what? So I know everybody wants to join in. So I do have a few questions. So I did first of all, I do appreciate you taking the time to do this because it's been a while since, as I stated through messages on TikTok, that we actually homeschooled my son during COVID for about 3 or 4 years. And to me, that is what fit more of our lifestyle. And he learned quicker at home anyways. And that's because he was only maybe an hour, 2 hours on his Chromebook.
Mhm.
But I did go on to one of your TikTok videos. It told us to go onto the I think it was let me pull it up. The HSLDA, based on the state of Georgia.
Yes.
It and one of the things that really stood out to me was that it said that they require the number of days of instruction, which is 180 days. Can you elaborate on that? Does that mean that he has to basically be on the computer for 180 days or what?
Nope. That requirement is so silly when we're unschoolers because learning happens every day. Like there's not a single day that goes by that your children will not learn. So when they're like 180 days, I'm like, fine, we learn 365 days that done, So yeah, that's not really an issue for us as unschoolers. We just view their learning and their instruction differently. Some people view it as like the bookwork stuff, but because we take a life learning approach, we recognize and acknowledge that our kids are learning all day, every day, 365 days a year.
Right, right. And there's a lot of stats that they said, and I actually wrote them down. And it did say that, of course, that he has to be taught required subjects. Does that also include like the I don't know how to say it, the courses? I know it in Spanish, the word courses in Spanish, but it's hard to translate. Um, so is that part of the learning? I mean, because right now that he's on summer vacation, he honestly, with him being outside, being out on the farm, tending to the animals and all that stuff, he has learned more than being in school sitting at a desk because supposedly he has ADHD, but of course we don't go based on the medication. So it does help him being outside. Um, but with him being taught required subject, what would that mean as far as that?
That's a great question. So words are really important. Notice that any state that has a required subject is exactly that. It says a required subject, not a required class. And there's a difference, right? You can learn a subject without taking a class, without using a curriculum, without doing homework, without doing workbooks, without doing worksheets, without having a textbook. You can learn a subject without anything that looks like school. So just like you mentioned, your child is on the farm, right?
Yeah.
So what subjects is he learning while he's on the farm?
It mostly has to do with the animals because he did state that he's leaning more to being a veterinarian.
Oh, great.
So he loves being out on the farm tending to the animals, and just being out, in fresh air, on the farm. I mean, what more can you ask, and he rather be there than at school. He
Okay.
does,
So if you had to put that work that he's doing with being around the animals, caring for the animals, if you had to if you had to label it a subject, what would you label it?
I guess I don't know. I guess it would be because it has to do with a lot of things. I mean, it's, with him learning how to plant, agriculture, or anything like corn or any, vegetables, or, what causes, I don't know, especially like a subject like that. I wouldn't know what to call it because it's
Right.
all
Can
one.
someone comment in the chat? Because this is a really important question for us to practice. We've got a boy here who's practicing on a farm. He's caring for animals. What would be a subject that he's learning while he's doing that? So I'm curious to see what you guys think. All right, see some
Environmental science.
environmental science. Yep. Those are some, that's kind of like the obvious one, right? Like that was my
Yeah.
first. Yeah, science, right? He's doing biology. He's learning about botany if he's, doing the plants and things like that. He's learning about, I see biology of animals. Excellent. Someone mentioned health. That's perfect. Yeah, learning about health. What are healthy foods for these animals? What are unhealthy foods for these animals? Someone mentioned economics, math if he's having to count how many chickens or how many chicken eggs he's got, right? Finance as well. Yeah. So all of those things, and that's just a couple that we mentioned here. Thank you guys for chiming in and passing the unschooling test today. Joke. But yeah, so all of those things, right? And this is the work of us as the parents, is that we are not trained, our brains are not trained to view all of life as learning. We're not used to that, right? So our work is being able to look at everything that your child is doing and say, what is my child learning when? And actually, that was a game that we used to play. I would play, what is my child learning when? And I would just pick random things. And actually, there's a group on Facebook by that same name. What is my unschooler learning when? And that's the name. If you want to join it, it's really great. And you can go on there and comment, and people say, what is my unschooler learning when they're playing Legos? What are they learning when they're playing Roblox? What are they learning when they're doing the dishes? What are they learning when they're going grocery shopping? What are they learning when they're riding a bike? What are they learning when they're, I don't know, making a YouTube video, or like whatever it may be that they're doing, right? So practicing that muscle for yourself is going to be a huge part of your own unschooling journey, and looking for the learning that he's doing. I promise you it's there.
Yeah, and just one more question, I promise. I did see that it was about the pricing of it. Like if I wanted to enroll him in PAX Academy, it was about $350 a year. Is that the correct pricing?
Yep.
Okay. Okay. And because I mean, like I said, we have homeschooled him before, and it just fit our lifestyle. And I'm really glad that we were able to come and get, across your videos. Because the teachers nowadays, I mean, not to degrade any teachers, because I'm pretty sure there's some out there that do the best they can from their heart.
Hi. A lot of us try.
Um, but nowadays it's very rare that that you'll come around someone that actually cares about your child's education in the right way. So, but that is all I have. Thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for being here and for asking great questions. All right, Samantha, hi.
It's good to see you again. I have a couple questions, and I know you have some in the comments, so I won't take up too much of your time, but I really appreciate you doing this Zoom meeting for everybody. I first was wondering, what agency are you accredited through for the PAX Academy? I couldn't find it on your website.
Oh, yes, we are credited through the International Association for Liberated Education.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah, that makes sense. And then the other thing that I was wondering was, so we decided to join a cooperative as well, because I mentioned to you that my son is autistic, and I just thought this would be really good for him for social reasons. And I was wondering if you had any advice as to like how we can integrate cooperatives within like the PAX Academy, like foundation, like how, or unschooling. We're definitely doing the parent-led teaching, which I think is just amazing, and I can't wait to teach history. But I just was wondering if you just had any advice on like how we can integrate this. Does it count as like taking a class? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so every co-op is different in the way that they're run, in the way that they operate. Ultimately, you've got to figure out kind of what works best for you and for your son. I always say that the best litmus test is looking at your child themselves. So they're going to let you know if if this is an environment where they're happy, where they're thriving, where they feel like they're fulfilled. I love that you're able to like teach and share your knowledge with kids. And there is a place for that, absolutely. So any of the work that you do, typically a credit for PAX Academy, 1 credit is the equivalent of about 100 hours worth of life experience. So think about all the hours that you would spend, or that he would spend maybe learning history with you, or even going on field trips to a historical site, or reading books about history, watching a documentary about history, all of those things over the course of a year, right? I mean, we spend way more than 100 hours like talking about history in the news and all this stuff that's going on, right? So yeah, so 1 credit is about the equivalent of that, of 100 hours. And so you can count whatever you would like to count as his credits. So if you want to count what he's doing with the co-op, awesome, you can count that. If you want to count things outside of the co-op, you can count that too.
That's awesome. Thank you. The other thing I was wondering too is, do you do international trips like yearly? Because
We
that's amazing.
We do. Actually, we're going to be going to Italy in the spring. We're going to be going in March. I'm really excited about this. My mom's family is from Italy, and we've been to Italy before. I've, gone there and seen some really great stuff, but I don't know what the heck my parents were thinking about. They took us to Italy and never took us to Rome. And I'm like, how do you do that? How do you go to Italy and not go to Rome? So I don't know. I've been to Italy and never been to Rome in my entire life, and it's been like on my bucket list forever. So now we're going to go. And my daughter for a long time was super interested in Pompeii. She had found like a book about Pompeii and just did like this deep dive into Pompeii. I mean, we watched every documentary I think you could possibly think about Pompeii. And she was like, 8, 9 years old. But she just loved Pompeii. And so this trip, we're also going to be going to Pompeii. So I'm really excited about that. If you are interested in coming on the trip with us, we actually do have a couple extra spots left that are available. So you can register. It's on our website now. So if you go to the PAX Academy website, it's under where it's called PAX Academy Go, and then you can check out more information about the Italy trip. My passion as well for international travel is not just for like going and being a tourist, although I think it's fun to go and be a tourist and learn that way. I really am passionate about like community service and really like getting our hands dirty in like the real life of stuff. I spent a good portion of my life volunteering in third world countries and working with orphanages and working with families that are living in extreme poverty around the world. And I think it's really a powerful thing to be able to give children the opportunity to see what real life is like for so many people that are living in extreme poverty around the world. And to be able to serve in that sense and really like get connected and build relationships with local people and not just kind of like go and admire the country from our fancy tour bus. So I'm hoping to plan some like community service trips in the future as well. So we'll do like my plan would be to do like one tour where, we go to Europe or go to Japan or, go somewhere fancy. And then we'll do another kind of tour that's more like surrounded about like community service, where they'll get to connect with other local kids from the orphanage and serve more on the other trip. And that trip will be significantly cheaper than doing like the fancy tours in Europe and in other places too. So yeah, but we will be going somewhere international every year.
That's amazing. I love that.
And what's cool too is they can earn both high school and college credits through that trip, which is awesome. I mean, in 1 week, they will earn 3 college credits from being on the tour with us, which is so cool.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it. We'll talk soon. Okay.
All right. Sounds good. All right. I'm going to take a look at the questions in the comments here. And I know I see you guys here on TikTok as well. Hi, everybody. I'm going to answer the questions here once I finish on the Zoom. So our Zoom meeting is done at 9. And then if I am able to, I'll try to answer the questions that are on TikTok, but we're going through the Zoom ones first. All right. So Michelle asked, is there an official definition for unschooling? Is there criteria to meet in order to be considered an unschooler? How does a child learn multiplication, division, etc. as an unschooler? Okay, so you've got some really good questions, 3 different really good questions there. Number 1, is there an official definition for unschooling? So the term unschooling was coined in 1970s by an educator named John Holt. Actually, I was reading one of his books earlier this morning called Teach Your Own. And I highly recommend that one. But any of the books by John Holt, I think, will be really helpful in understanding more of the unschooling philosophy. So he is the one who came up with that term. There are a lot of different definitions for that term. Personally, I'm not really a fan of the term unschooling. I think it needs like rebranding, because when most people hear the term unschooling, they think that they're not learning and they're not doing anything, and nothing is further from the truth. So personally, I prefer the term self-directed education, or educational freedom, or what I call peaceful world schooling, hence the name of my TikTok channel, peaceful world schooling. So I prefer those terms, but unschooling is kind of the term that we're stuck with because that's the term that most people know. But yeah, so I personally define unschooling. I would say that it is, again, self-directed education where the child is the one who is in charge of their learning, where they're the one that is choosing what, when, where, why, and how they learn. Is there a criteria to meet in order to be considered unschooled? This is actually a question that's kind of been up for debate, and I would love to know what you guys think. I've heard some people say like, we're unschoolers, but we use a curriculum for reading and math. And my personal belief would be that unschooling really is a philosophy. It is an approach to life in general, and it really is a philosophy about how I want to interact with other human beings, namely the tiniest human beings that live in my home. So thinking about that question, when I think about how do I want to approach my relationship with my children, in my mind, there's a dichotomy, and the two, again, in my head, I could be wrong, and you might disagree with me. And if you do, that, please let me know in the comments. I'm happy to hear. I really do believe that they're two completely different worlds. So there's one world that says that I'm going to interact with my children through exerting my power over them. I'm going to interact with them through force, through coercion, where I'm going to have power over them and try my best to control them and what they do. Then there's another philosophy that says that rather than having power over my children, I want to be someone who empowers my children to have power over themselves. And for me, the two don't really go together. Like, because it really is a question of power. Who has the power? Do I have power over you, or do you have power over you? Do I control you and what you do and how you spend your time and how you do it, or do you control you? Who has autonomy here, right? And are you forced or are you free? So for me, they're two very, very different worlds almost. And that's why for me, the school system doesn't really work for me anymore, because I am so adamantly opposed to the idea that human beings should interact with one another through force and coercion and threats and manipulation and violence and humiliation and isolation and all of these other tactics that are so harmful to humanity. So for me, when I think about what does it mean to be an unschooler, it means that I'm going to treat you with love and respect and with kindness, with gentleness, with patience, with freedom, with compassion, with empathy. I can't treat you with compassion and empathy and at the same time try to control you and limit you and force you and coerce you and punish you into doing what I want you to do. So for me, the two are really opposites. But I know there are some people that might disagree with me on that, and that's fine. You asked, how does a child learn multiplication and division, etc., as an unschooler? So children that are unschoolers, they learn in the same way that you learn as an adult. They learn through their unique passions and interests, and they learn as things show up in their real life. And I tell this to parents all the time, if a skill has not shown up in your child's life yet, they don't have to know it yet. Like, really get that. If a skill has not shown up in your child's real life, they don't have to know it yet. My daughter's 10. She doesn't know long division. And that's okay. Because all that means to me is that long division is the skill that has not been useful in her 10 years of life yet. And I don't know about you, but when was the last time that you did long division on a piece of paper. I don't know. I haven't done long division. If I need to divide something, I normally will whip out my phone and use my calculator, but I haven't had to use that, right? How do they learn multiplication and division? We actually learn a lot of math through games. And actually, like, she's learned multiplication. Division hasn't really come up as much for her, but she has learned multiplication, addition, and subtraction. She's learned fractions through like cooking and baking. She's learned a lot of like the other basic arithmetics and things like that through playing games. We play a lot of board games, video games, card games, dice games. All of those different kinds of games are a great way to learn. I remember the first time that she was multiplying was actually through our chicken eggs. Ironically enough, I asked her how many eggs we collected, and she was like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And she was like, "Hey, Mom, did you know that when you count this way, it's faster than if you count each one by itself?" And I was like, I did know that, yes. But she, she just discovered that on her own, that she could count by twos, and it was faster than counting each of the individual eggs. And so, yeah, so that was the first time that she multiplied. And I think she was like 6 years old when she did that. So again, it was natural. It showed up in our life, and that's how she did it. You asked another question. You said, what books or blogs, etc., about unschooling would you recommend? So I have a free ebook that's available, and it's on my TikTok channel. And then after this, I can send a link for it, but it's called The Wonderful World of Peaceful World Schooling. In that ebook, I provide a list of all of my favorite unschooling resources. There's tons of them in there. And I'll try to see if I can find I have like an Amazon list too of all my favorite unschooling books. But just to name a couple off the top of my head, one of my favorite unschooling resources is actually a podcast. It's called the Exploring Unschooling podcast by Pamela Rickia. Her podcast is phenomenal. Pamela Rickia has been unschooling longer than I've been alive. And every week, every Thursday, she releases a new episode where she interviews another family that does unschooling. And it's just brilliant. That podcast was so helpful for me in my first year as I was like dealing with all of my fear and anxiety and worry about, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Is this terrible? And then I would hear all these stories of kids that were just happy and thriving and free. And I was like, okay, no, I'm okay. We're on the right path. So her podcast was really helpful. Some other books that were really helpful for me, Free to Learn by Peter Gray, The Problem of Punishments and Rewards. That is by Alfie Kohn. That's another good one. Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. That one's a very quick read. It's a quick and easy read. I think the book is like $9 online too. So that one's a really good introductory one, I think. Dumbing Us Down by John Taylor Gatto. Any of the books by John Holt. Yeah, that's probably where I would start. But I have a whole list in my ebook where you can see all the other ones. At what point in unschooling is curriculum introduced? Curriculum is only introduced in unschooling when the child is choosing it. So if your child is not choosing curriculum, then we never introduce curriculum. And that's okay, because they can learn everything that they need without a curriculum, just like how you learn everything you need without a curriculum. Regarding homeschool reviews, what information does an umbrella pass on to the county? So if you are in Maryland, I have 2 organizations. So I have PAX Academy, which is my private school, but I also have the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella. So the information that we have to communicate to the county is we have to tell them like your name and your child's name. And so that's what we tell them. We say, this kid is enrolled with us. You can leave them alone. And that's it. Amanda said, can they earn all their credits on the portfolio method? Yes, they can absolutely earn all of their credits in the portfolio method. And actually, that's like the preferred method for unschoolers, is they learn through their life experience, and that's it. If so, would they be able to finish in 4 years? Absolutely. And in fact, most unschoolers will finish or graduate early. You are welcome to graduate early if you want to. Within PAX Academy, I actually have a whole course that teaches you how to unschool from kindergarten through 12th grade. And so I'll teach you ways that you can kind of like hack your homeschool and save thousands of dollars on college through doing things like testing or through a portfolio and other things like that. And so, yeah, so all of that will be in there for you, that you'll be able to learn all these different ways that you can earn credits faster. Especially if you're doing the testing method, you can earn a ton of credits through testing. So I highly recommend doing that, especially if your kid is like good at testing. Dara said, hey, Angela, we live in Maryland and are considering going through your Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella. How are the reviews done at the end of the year? How do we show you what the state requires for each subject? Would we need to worry about the state auditing us and us needing to produce work that to show that they learned all the subjects that they require? All right, that is a great question too. So the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella, again, is my umbrella that is only for families that are in Maryland. Our reviews are done. You have 3 different choices for how you do your annual review if you are in the umbrella. If you are in PAX Academy, you don't have to do an annual review because you're not considered a homeschooler. You're enrolled in a private school. But if you are in the umbrella, then we do have to do an annual review. And what that looks like is the most popular option is that we do a group review via Zoom, and it looks just like this. We meet on Zoom in the first week in April, and we talk about our homeschooling experience. So you actually divide up into like breakout rooms, and you'll get a chance to meet other unschoolers or other homeschoolers that are in your county, and you'll get a chance to talk with them about your year, talk about what worked, any challenges that you may have encountered, any concerns that you have about the future, and then we just kind of share about that. You affirm that you like complied with COMAR and that you met all the regulations, and that's that. So that's one option. The second option is you could do a peer review. So if you don't want to be on the group Zoom, you can find a friend who's in our umbrella and you can talk with them about your homeschool year. Share about the resources you use and what they've learned and how you all have grown, what's worked, what didn't work. And then you would fill out a form letting me know, hey, I interviewed Susie and Susie interviewed me. And then the last option, if you can't do one of those first 2, is that you can do a one-on-one review with me, which is a 15-minute phone call. And we talk, same thing, talk about your homeschool year, and that's it. This is meant to be like 0 stress for you because our whole goal is that you can focus your time and effort and energy on what matters most, and that is having a happy, healthy relationship with your kids. The education flows from that naturally. But I don't think that it's fair for parents to spend so much time and effort and energy and stress freaking out about annual reviews or having to prove that they did all these crazy subjects. If you want to save things that you've done, you can, but what most unschoolers do is that, like, for example, with me, like I document a lot of the learning that we do through my social media personally. Like I share videos about us going on our field trips. We go on field trips every single Friday. So I show that like we're doing active learning in our field trips every single Friday. So it doesn't have to look like bookwork or worksheets or anything like that. You shouldn't have to worry about anyone from the state auditing you because you're not under the state's supervision anymore. You would be under the umbrella supervision. So that's our responsibility, not the state's anymore. And no, you don't need to like produce work to show the state because again, you're not supervised by them. So hopefully that answered all of your questions. All right, let me see if I got other questions in here. Michelle asked, what are practical ways that a person can start unschooling? Oh, gosh. A practical way that you can start unschooling is to close your eyes and imagine that school did not exist. And then when you open your eyes, get any curriculum, any workbooks, any worksheets, any of like the school charts, anything that like looks like school, and put them in a closet somewhere. That's a practical way to start unschooling. Just put it all away. Put away all the schoolish stuff. I would say throw it in the trash, but I get that not everyone is ready to do that. I definitely wasn't my first year that I was unschooling. My first year that I was unschooling, I bought not a curriculum, but like the workbooks, it's like the kindergarten workbook, right? I like bought one of those. I bought a couple of those. And I had them there in case she ever wanted to use them. And the first year, sometimes she did, like my daughter would say, hey, mommy, can we play school? And she'd set up her Barbies and her stuffed animals and she'd pull out the workbooks and she'd teach her teddy bears, like a couple of the pages of the kindergarten workbook. And then that was it. She maybe did that like a handful of times throughout the year. For her first grade year, I bought the first grade workbook again, but she never touched it that year. And I was really nervous. I was like, oh gosh, we didn't do anything in the first grade workbook. And so for her second grade year, that was the first year that I was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm not going to buy the second grade workbook. I'm going to let it go. I'm going to trust that she's going to learn everything that she needs without me holding on to these workbooks anymore. And so that was the first year. Second grade was the first year that I did not buy a workbook, and she survived. So yeah, that would be my recommendation for how you can start. Imagine that school doesn't exist, and then get rid of anything that's in your space that makes you feel like school. All right, Samantha said, thank you. I need to leave, but we'll be enrolling on June 1st. Awesome. Yay, I'm really excited. Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, we're actually opening our enrollment for PAX Academy for the 2024-2025 school year on June 1st. So after June 1st, you guys can enroll with us there. It's $350 for the year, or it's $600 for a family of up to 3 students. And we accept students that are ages 5 and up to adults. So yeah. All right, did anyone else have any other questions?
I did.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you mentioned the enrollment. In order for us to enroll, after June 1st, do we have to have notified the school previously before enrolling with you, or would you notify the school? How would we go about that?
Yeah, so it's kind of like on both parts, right? So when you enroll with us, then we'll request the records from the school, and then you would also like let the school know, hey, I'm withdrawing them and they're going to be enrolled in this private school. So we both kind of communicate with the school to let them know.
Okay, thank you.
Domitilia says, state requires a written curriculum on reading, spelling, grammar, math, and good citizenship. Do you offer a written curriculum, or do I have to create the curriculum myself? So hold on, let me show you. Give me 1 second, I'm trying to pull it up here.
I do have another question while you're looking. So with my son's school, I had to do an affidavit for his vaccinations, because that was required by the state of Georgia. Do I still have to do that in PAX Academy, or how would we do?
Sorry, you said the vaccinations, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so we accept religious exemptions. So if you don't want to continue vaccinating, you can submit a religious exemption.
Okay.
All right, so here we already talked about the required subjects. Here it says use the written curriculum. It says you can use some form of written curriculum. Online programs meet this requirement, and then you operate your school in a bona fide manner. So the curriculum, so we actually provide curriculum, but it's an unschooling curriculum, if that makes sense. So the curriculum, again, is chosen by the child, and your child is basically kind of creating their own curriculum, although we don't necessarily call it that, but they're creating their curriculum based on whatever tools or resources that they would like to use, rather than having someone else's curriculum dictate what they're learning. So if you, and again, in Texas is one of the easiest states to unschool with, because you don't have to, like, you're not reporting to anyone. You're not having to prove this to anyone. You're not having to show this to anyone. No one's like investigating, like, what curriculum did you use for XYZ? Like, no one's doing any of that. But if they were to ask, then we do provide like a curriculum within PAX Academy, and I can actually help you also with creating something if you were ever to provide documentation, because there are states that do provide or require documentation. So for example, like in New York, you do have to show your curriculum, but you can also custom create your curriculum. And so as unschoolers, like, I can help you with creating that. Another great tool that you can use to help you create that is ChatGPT. If you have not used ChatGPT, you can, it's like an AI generator, and you can go in there and type in, say, hey, write me a curriculum based on, and then you would just type in whatever your child's interests are. And then they would write out, curriculum and standards and things like that that are based on whatever your kid likes. So some people do that, but again, in Texas, it's not really necessary because there are no reporting requirements, so you don't have to share that with anyone. And PAX Academy is considered like an online school. So yeah, that would count as well. All right, Dara said, how and when will we enroll in the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella and how much is it? So the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella is $100 per family per year. And I can send you the link for that right now. The enrollment for Peaceful World Schoolers is also going to be updated on June 1st. So if you just like wait a couple days, you can go on that website and then you'll be able to apply for the 2024-2025 school year. If you go on there, you can read more about our umbrella and then you just click the button where it says register now and that's it. All right, any other questions? All right, I see someone on TikTok said, can I enroll my kids in Texas? Yes, we do accept students from all 50 states. All right, any other questions on the Zoom before I take TikTok questions? Okay. It looks like everyone's good over here on Zoom. Well, before I let you all go, I just want to thank you all so much for taking the time to be here. I know that there are so many different ways and places that you could have chosen to spend your time tonight. And I deeply appreciate the investment that you guys have made to be here with me and to learn more about unschooling and about this philosophy that for so many of us is new and maybe sounds a little bit crazy. But I'm so thankful that you guys are here and that you're learning and that we're able to grow together. So thank you guys so much for being here and for being open and for asking these hard questions that are so important and for doing the hard work of unschooling and deschooling yourself. I'm really thankful for you guys. So thank you for being here. I'm going to start taking questions on TikTok. And yeah, okay, let me go back real quick. All right. So, sorry, I'm going to try to scroll back up. Oh gosh, there are a lot of comments on here. Hold on. Hey, everybody on TikTok. All right. Let me see what I got here. Okay, sorry. I'm going to try to skip through a lot of Spanish comments real quick. Sorry, guys. All right. The Spanish live is on the second Wednesday of the month. All right. Greetings from New York. Hello to people in New York. All right, how much is the tuition? So the tuition for PAX Academy is $350 per year. And right now we have a family special that's $600 per year for a family of up to 3 students. And that can include the parents as well. All right, how will this work in California? So in California, the way that you start homeschooling or unschooling is you have to fill out an online form. It's called a private school affidavit. And it takes about 5 minutes to fill it out. And you have to fill it out whenever you start homeschooling. And then you have to submit that form every year between October 1st and October 15th. So yeah, so that's how you do it in California. Are you from Britain? No, I am from Washington, D.C. How will your school work for children with special needs, IEPs? Yeah, so children that have special needs and have IEPs, they absolutely thrive when they are unschooled. It is one of the best gifts that you could give your child with special needs, to give them the freedom to learn in ways that are most meaningful for them. So yeah, how would it work for children with IEPs? They learn the same way that every other human being learns. They learn through their unique passions and interests, and they learn as they go about living and experiencing the real life and the real world. That's how they learn. How do high schoolers get a diploma? Great question. So homeschoolers earn a diploma. That's kind of like a big misconception. A lot of people think that homeschoolers don't get diplomas, and that's not true. There are a couple different ways that homeschoolers can get a diploma. The way that diplomas work is that the person or the entity who is supervising the person's education, that is the person who will issue the diploma. So in the case of public school students, the state is supervising their education, so the state issues the diploma. In the case of homeschoolers, a parent or guardian is supervising their education, so the parent or guardian would issue a diploma. And it really is as simple as that. Like, you as the parent can go online, you can type up a diploma on your computer and you can print it out and give it to your kid. And the parent issued diploma is just as valid as any other diploma. That being said, when you apply to college with a parent issued diploma, a lot of times they will make your homeschooler prove how they earned all of those credits. So they're gonna say, you know, your mom said you got an A in Algebra 2, how did you do that, right? So they're gonna wanna see proof that you actually did what you said that you did on your transcript. And so that's why a lot of times people choose to enroll in a program like PAX Academy or another private school or something like that, because then the diploma is being issued from a private school as opposed to mom or dad. And so a lot of times it makes the transition to college a lot easier. Now, of course, no college is obligated to accept any student, even students that go to public school and have a diploma from the state. Not all of them are accepted in every college that they apply to. So regardless of how your child chooses to earn their education, earn their diploma, it is important that they are aware of the requirements of the college that they're hoping to get into, because every college has different requirements. So like there are some colleges that will make you jump through a whole lot of extra hoops. There is actually a college in Arizona that refuses to accept homeschool diplomas, even though HSLDA has sent them multiple letters. But again, they're a private college and it's their policy that they don't accept homeschool diplomas. And so, you know, if you want to go there, you can't, because that's their school's policy. So it's just, again, something to just be aware of. Another way that some homeschoolers or unschoolers will get their diploma is they get the GED, but I actually don't recommend that they do that, because when you get the GED, it kind of, a GED is different than actually getting a diploma and finishing your studies. And I know it shouldn't matter, but in the eyes of a lot of people kind of view the GED as like less than, which is silly, but a lot of people just think that way. And so, yeah, so most unschoolers or most homeschoolers don't recommend getting the GED. They recommend getting like your actual diploma, either from your parents or from an institution like PAX Academy, and then using that. And then another thing that a lot of unschoolers will do is they'll actually do what's called dual enrollment. So that's when they're taking like high school class or college classes at the community college at the same time that they're in high school, like before they graduate. And so when they do that, that's a really, really great way for them to be able to kind of prove to a college or university that they're capable of doing college level work. So even though they're not, you know, even though they haven't graduated yet, like they're taking these college classes and they're able to show, oh yes, I can do a college level English class or whatever that may be. So a lot of unschoolers will actually, and homeschoolers will actually start taking college classes usually when they're like 16 years old, is when they'll start doing those classes. All right. Pueden demandarme si, sorry, hold on. Pueden demandarme por elegir escuela en casa. No. No. Kay Sully said, I've heard of PAX Academy, but is Peaceful World Schooler something separate? Yes. So I actually run two different homeschool organizations. The first one is, which most of you guys know, is PAX Academy. TikTok is making me tell you that I'm still here. So PAX Academy is my private school for unschoolers. PAX Academy is open to students in all 50 states. We accept students from all 50 states. We are a registered and accredited private school. So students that enroll with us in most states are considered private school students. Peaceful World Schoolers is a homeschool umbrella that is registered in Maryland. So the Peaceful World Schoolers umbrella is only for families that are in Maryland. It just kind of meets the requirements of the state to have the state leave you alone. But so Peaceful World Schoolers cost $100 per family per year. Peaceful World PAX Academy costs $350 per student per year. And they provide a lot of different things. So like within Peaceful World Schoolers, you just kind of pay the fee and everyone leaves you alone, including me. The only real requirement that you have in Peaceful World Schoolers is that we have to do an annual review once a year, because that's what's required in our state. With PAX Academy, you pay a little bit more, but you're getting a lot more as well. And I tell people all the time, if you're doing it right, PAX Academy should more than pay for itself. Actually, I was just looking today, we're planning out like our summer adventures, and we were looking through all of like the exclusive discounts that we get through PAX Academy to be able to get discounts on water parks and going to the movie theater and different like activities and shows and all this other stuff that's like exclusive for PAX Academy families. So if you're doing it right, you should more than save your, like, get your money back. And actually I had a mom reach out to me, I think I shared this before, that she told me that she was actually able to use her teacher discount with PAX Academy to be able to save over $500 on her cell phone bill. She saved 25% on her cell phone bill. So just with that one discount, she's already like more than paid for PAX Academy. Oh, Carla, hi. Good to see you on here. Carla said, hi, everyone. I'm a happy mom learning from my kids. I love that. She said, we're an unschooling family. That is so cool. All right. Askia said, though I don't know you, I love what you're doing. Thank you so much for sharing that. What is unschooling technically? So legally speaking, unschooling is a type of homeschooling. Unschooling is basically an educational philosophy where we live as though school does not exist. We do not do anything that looks like school, and our children learn in ways that are completely natural based on their unique passions and interests. Nothing is forced or coerced, and everything is driven by what they have a passion for or a purpose for. And that's it. That's unschooling. Unschooling is the way that you learn. No one's forcing you to learn stuff. You just live your life, and as stuff comes up, you learn it. And that's unschooling. Amiga, ¿cuándo harás uno así en español? Ya hago reuniones así cada segundo miércoles del mes en español. All right, learning plus child-led. Thank you for the information. This helps. Is there a way to get a sneak peek for PAX Academy? What do you mean? What did you want to get a sneak peek of? You can let me know. Yeah, so when you enroll in PAX Academy, you'll get an enrollment letter that shows that your child is enrolled in a private school. You'll also get a teacher verification letter. So this is really cool because we are a private school. You are your child's primary educator, which means that you are a teacher with a private school, and you can use your teacher discount on virtually everything you could possibly think of. I use my teacher discount all the time at Michael's. I've used it at Target. I've used it at Barnes & Noble. I've used it to get into like museums for free, to plan field trips for free, to do all kinds of like really cool stuff like that we can do because we're planning as a teacher with a private school. So you get that as well. You'll also get a planning guide. You'll get access to all of our online resources, including a course that I designed that teaches you how to unschool your kids from kindergarten through 12th grade. That course has hundreds of resources in there for you to explore and to look at. It also includes like courses that I've designed. You'll also have access to Canva for free, which is a graphic design software. It costs $120 per year. That is also included for free with your tuition. You'll get access to exclusive discounts, like so many different things. You'll get discounts at like aquariums, amusement parks, movie theaters, car rentals, Broadway shows, all kinds of fun stuff so that you can like do really cool things in your kids' learning. We're currently using FLVS, and we're looking at K through 12 as an alternative. So I actually don't recommend K-12. A lot of people use K-12, but for me, it's the same issue, right? Like K-12 is just an online public school. You're still being controlled by a curriculum. You're not able to experience the freedom that is self-directed education because you're still under that system of being under a curriculum where someone else is telling you what you have to learn and how you have to learn it. I don't want that. I want my kids to be free to learn things that are actually valuable for them in their real life. And that doesn't happen through a curriculum. It happens by giving your children the freedom to choose how they want to spend their time and what they want to learn about. Let me see. How the regions work in PAX Academy. I'm sorry, I don't understand your question. If you could reword it, that would be helpful. Or if you want, you could type it in Spanish and I can answer it in Spanish too. Sherry said, is there a cost associated outside of the yearly fee for PAX? So the yearly fee is all that's required. There are some other like additional things that you can do if you want to, but none of those things are required. I recommend that when students get to high school, that they book a college and career consultation with me. So that is a one-on-one private consultation. I charge for those usually $200 outside of PAX Academy, but PAX Academy students get discount. So that consultation will only be $100. And as I mentioned, during that consultation, I will literally teach your kid how you can save tens of thousands of dollars on their college education. So that $100 will be well worth your time and your money. So I recommend that high school students do that once a year because it's helpful to kind of do a check-in with someone who's not mom and dad, and we make a very specific and strategic plan for their learning for that year. Because it is important that they can have goals and that they can have an idea of what they want to create for their year, both short-term and long-term goals. So we talk through all of that. We talk about like grades, their transcript, transitioning to college, what their options are, how they can apply for scholarships, like all the things we cover within that hour. So that's, again, that's totally optional, but I highly recommend that. And then whenever they are ready to graduate, they do have to pay for a diploma fee. It's $50 for the diploma fee, and then plus whatever the shipping costs are. So $50 for that. Official transcripts, I believe they're like $35 for an official transcript. But again, that you won't need that until they're like graduating and ready to go to college. So yeah. Yep. Oh, and I didn't tell you guys. So some other things too. We're actually I'm making a yearbook, which is kind of fun. So we're doing like an unschool yearbook. I'm really excited. I've never seen anybody do this before, but I don't know. I had this idea. I was like, how cool would that be if we have like an unschool yearbook, where we celebrate like our unschool year. And so yeah, so I've been collecting like interviews and the photos and stuff from the kids that are within PAX Academy. And so I'm going to be putting that together, and then that will be available for purchase. But again, no one has to buy it. You're welcome to if you want to, but you don't have to. You don't even have to participate in the yearbook if you don't want to. But I think it'll be a really nice like memento of the year, and just to kind of like capture a little time capsule of who your child was in, second grade or fourth grade or whatever. And see their growth over time. Okay, so I said, thank you so much for creating this. I'm so excited to start this with my kids this year. I'm excited for you. I'm excited for you. It's like the best thing ever. It's the best thing ever. And it's kind of ironic, right? Like to have a school where the whole point of the school is that like your kids don't need school, it's kind of crazy thought. But it's really, really beautiful. And I love being able to help walk alongside, parents and children as you guys are living and experiencing this new life. Because I know for most of this is totally new. For most of us, we've never heard about unschooling, or we don't know other people who have been unschooled or who are unschooling. And so it can be really challenging at the beginning. When I first started, I didn't know anybody who was unschooling, and I was terrified. And I don't want other parents to have to go through that. Like, I want you guys to know, like, you're not alone in this. All of like the fears that you might have are totally normal. All the concerns that you have are totally normal. All of us have had to like wrestle through those fears and those concerns. All of that is like a part of the deschooling process. It's a part of the work that we have to do as parents, that is so important. And you're not alone in doing that work. So yeah. Amy said, how about working outside of the house and trying to homeschool kids with ADHD? Yeah, so anytime that you have to work outside of the house, you're gonna have to be a little bit creative. The nice thing about unschooling is that learning happens all the time. So it's not restricted to like 9 to 3. You can like literally learn with your kids at any point in time. The big thing will be figuring out like obviously who's going to care for them while you are at work. I can't tell you specifically how to do that. I could share with you what I did when I was working outside of the house. I had a nanny at the beginning when I was working outside of the home. And the nanny that I had, she would come to our home and she would care for my children in my home. She was someone that like agreed with my beliefs and my philosophy about like peaceful parenting and respectful parenting. So we were like on the same page about that. Also, my mom was in the house too. So my mom was also able to be there to kind of see and make sure like she was interacting with my children in ways that were agreeable to what I would have wanted or how I would have wanted an adult to be treating my children. And so, yeah, so that was what I did at the beginning. We've also done like single mom swaps where like there's a group of single moms and we all kind of like trade days where like one of us will watch the kids on one day and then the next mom will watch them on the next day. And that way all of us are only responsible to watch the kids for one day. And we all have kind of like free childcare for the rest of the week. So that was really fun to be able to do that. And yeah. And then ultimately what I ended up doing is I knew that like my personal goal was not to be working outside of the home. Like my personal goal was like, I wanted to be able to spend as much time with my kids as possible. And so if that's you, then I would start building that. Like look for ways that you can build a business from home. Look for ways that you can find work from home. Look for ways that you can like decrease your expenses or increase your income in other ways that don't require you to work. I have a friend of mine who, like they had a bedroom in their basement and they rented out their bedroom in their basement on Airbnb, and she made $86,000 in 1 year renting her basement on Airbnb. Like, what? So yeah, it's possible. There's money out there. There's ways to earn money outside of like you being the one that has to work all the time. So I would think outside the box in that aspect. Sherry said, that's what's been so confusing. I thought homeschooling would give that freedom. Yeah, so homeschooling, I define homeschooling as doing school at home. And unschooling is completely different. Unschooling is living as though school does not exist. Like recognizing that learning happens as naturally as breathing. It's literally impossible for your child not to learn. Like humans are naturally wired to learn. And with homeschooling, it's still taking that model of I'm going to tell you what I think you need to learn, and I'm going to tell you how you should learn it, when you should learn it, where you should learn it, how you're going to prove to me that you learned it. And I don't care what you think about any of that. Like, I don't care if you're interested in this topic. I don't care if you like this book. I don't care if you're bored with this worksheet. I don't care if you're ever going to use polynomials in your real life. Like, I don't care about any of that. This is what I think you should learn, and that's all that matters. And so I'm going to force and coerce you and threaten you and punish you if you don't do what I think you should do. That's literally the whole philosophy of school. And an unschooling philosophy is the complete opposite of that. It's not my job to force or coerce you to do anything. It's my job to empower you to discover your own power. It's my job to empower you to pursue your passion and to figure out what your purpose is in this life. That's my job as your mom. Yeah. And there's freedom in that. User 2072 with lots of other numbers said, hi, I just got in the chat and I'm new here. Do you have a website? Yes, I do have a website. My website for my private school is paxacademy.org. That's PAX Academy.org. I also have another website that's called peacefulworldschoolers.com. That was my first website. I haven't updated that one as often, but Peaceful World Schoolers has like my books and podcasts and all that other stuff that's like more me on there. But yeah. Got both of those. Thanks for asking. Just Me said, we've been doing unschooling since January and it's been the best. My kiddo is back to her happy self. I love that. Thank you so much for commenting that. And if you're watching this and you have been unschooling, I would love to hear how it's been for you so far. It makes me so happy to hear parents talking about like the changes that they've seen in their kid. And I can't tell you how many times I've had parents say exactly what you said, just me, when they say my child is back. It's something truly magical. Like when we remove our children from school and we give them the freedom to just be who they are, like the joy that comes for them in that is incredible. I wish that every parent knew that you could truly live a life full of joy, of peace, of patience, of fun, of freedom with your kid. And it really can be that simple and easy as sharing your life together and enjoying every moment that you have together. Like that's it. Yeah, the education flows naturally out of like your relationship that you have with them. It's a beautiful thing. So Zoom meeting with A. I don't know what that means. Sorry. The person that had the question about regents, they meant those state mandated tests. Oh, okay. So it depends on the state that you're in. There are some states that do require state testing and there's some that don't. So like, for example, if you are in Tennessee, for example, if you're in Tennessee or I think Florida too, they also have like testing that you have to do. But if you are enrolled in a private school like PAX Academy, then you don't have to do those tests anymore. So it just depends. Sherry said, we have the same philosophy. We started the process this February, but I think we've been homeschooling. Yeah. So homeschooling is like doing school at home, where you're basically just like doing whatever they would have done in school and you do it at home. If ever I have encountered a parent or a child who has had like a bad experience with homeschooling, it has always been because they've been doing that. Like they've been trying to do school at home and the child and or the parent is frustrated and upset and overwhelmed or stressed or anxious because they've been trying to do school at home. And that's like totally not the point. Like the whole point of removing our kids from school is that we're removing them from school. We're not trying to do school anymore. We're trying to do life. Yeah. Yes, FLVS is considered private and they have pick what you want courses, but it's still the same classes. Yeah. And that's kind of been my big issue, you know, like when a lot of times when people say like, oh, you know, my kid's doing K-12 or FLVS or they're doing, you know, Keystone or Easy Peasy Homeschool, whatever, like all these other homeschool online classes and stuff. It's like, it's the same idea. You're still having someone else tell you what you have to learn. And I don't want that for my kids. I want my kids to be lifelong independent learners. I want my kids to be able to figure out like, what do I have to know for my life? How do I want to learn it? Right? Like that's what creates that internal motivation that makes people successful in life. And it's actually been one of my biggest concerns about public schooling in general. I remember like I would have students in public school that like, if they didn't know how to do something, like it was over. Like there was no internal motivation or drive. There was no problem solving. There was no resourcefulness. Like they would just like tell me what to do. And I'm like, you're 17 years old. I shouldn't have to tell you what to do. Like you should be able to figure out what to do, you know, like figuring out how to figure stuff out. Like that's a really important skill. And the ironic thing is like, no one can teach you that, right? Like no one can teach you how to figure out how you need to figure stuff out. Sherry said, hi, daughter. My daughter just wants to cook. Awesome. If that's what she loves, I mean, you never know where that passion is going to take her. She might be, gosh, the other day I was watching this girl who's like been doing cake videos on, I've seen her on Facebook and on Instagram. And she does like these beautiful cakes and her video, like she has millions of views of her like making cakes. I'm like, you never know where this interest will take them. Never know. Miss Fawn said, hi, Dr. Harding. We started PAX in February and have been unschooling. That's awesome. I love that you called me doctor. I'm not a doctor yet. I have thought about getting my doctorate, but I just don't know if I have the stomach to do more school. But yeah, thank you. I hope that you have been enjoying unschooling. Let me know comment and let me know how it's been going for you guys. Angela said, can you go over what a normal week for y'all looks like with unschooling? Yeah, so what a normal week for unschooling looks like with us. So we don't really have like an hourly schedule to our day, not like what I had planned originally. You know, I had planned like 30 minutes math, 30 minutes science, 30 minutes social studies, 30 minutes reading, whatever. It doesn't look like that. We have more of like a flow to our week rather than like a schedule for our day. I hope that makes sense. So kind of what the week looks like for us. On Mondays, we are actually part of an unschool. It's not a co-op, an unschooled group. So we have like a group that we go to. There's like over 80 unschoolers and they hang out in this building and they have different like rooms for all the different things. So they have like a gym, they have a commercial kitchen, they have a science room, an art room, a math room, they have a library with like games. They have like an outdoor courtyard, they have an outdoor play area. So tons of different like stuff for them to do. And then the kids are just kind of free to go where they want to do whatever they want. And then they offer like guilds and stuff. The guilds are kind of like classes, but anyone can start them. So like if there was like an adult that led a vegan baking class. And so the kids that wanted to learn about vegan bacon would go with her and they'd learn how to do that with her. There were some kids that wanted to start like a Pokemon class. And so they did that. Like they went and did Pokemon together. So they could literally start a guild on whatever they wanted. So that's what we do on Mondays. And usually like they're there from 10 until 2, again, not like a full day, but 10 to 2. So during those 4 hours, that's when I try to work, because they're somewhere safe and happy and healthy. So that's what that is. So I drop them off there so that I can have like 4 hours to myself that I can get some work done. And then on Tuesday, I've been answering calls on Tuesdays. I had planned that as like our day at home to kind of like relax and chill, but like the last couple months, I've literally been back-to-back phone calls on Tuesday. Like yesterday, I had back-to-back phone calls every 15 minutes from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. It was crazy. And so yeah, I've been doing a lot more phone calls than I would like to do on Tuesdays. But that's what we've been doing. And so normally on Tuesdays, like I'm with them and we play games and we read books and we run errands together, or we cuddle on the couch and watch a movie, or whatever. But a lot of times I'm working from home on that day too. So we all kind of like work on our things, but we're like all together. So like my daughter's been working on like animations that she's been doing. So she'll do that on her iPad. My son will ask me if I will like read books with him. I'll take a break. He has actually been really interested in like science. We got us like a science kit thing that comes to our house every month. And so he'll ask me like if we could do one of the science kits. And so like we'll do one of those. My daughter loves to cook as well. So she'll like cook breakfast or lunch or whatever. So that's usually our Tuesdays. Wednesdays, I go with them to the co-op, not co-op, to the Unschool group. Thursdays is another one of like our down days. And then every Friday, I plan a field trip or an event. And my daughter is actually a part of like the planning process with me. So like I ask her, what are field trips that you would like to go on? And then I try to create those and make those kind of happen for her and for everyone else. And so we actually have like a group now here in Maryland. There's over 1,000 families in our group now. And so we go on field trips and it's really fun. So last Friday they went strawberry picking at a local farm. This Friday we're going to be doing paddle boating, and we're going to go to like a really cool playground area and go out for dinner with all of like our other homeschooling and unschooling friends. And then we have a whole bunch of really fun stuff coming up for the summer. So yeah, so that's what we do. That's kind of like what our week looks like. Sherry said, you're making me feel better. Good. I'm glad I can make you feel better. I need to offline with you. Yeah, for sure. Send me a DM. It's easier for me if you send me DMs on Instagram though than on here. I'm like a big fan of voice notes. I hate like having to type out all the things. I don't know. So yeah, feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. I also have WhatsApp groups too. So if you are interested in joining my WhatsApp group, you can join there and we can connect offline. Miss Font said, going well, I submitted grades. Her dad asked for a report card or a way to check grades, advice. Yeah, so if you need a report card, just let me know. You can send me an email and I'll send one to you. A way to check grades. So the way that you do grades as unschooling is going to be really different. There are some unschoolers that don't do grades at all. My daughter is 10. She's never had a grade. And she's fine. Technically, like, grades aren't really necessary until they get to high school. To be honest, that's the only transcript that they really look at, anyone really looks at, unless they're planning to go back to school. So like if your kids are planning to go back to school, then yeah, you'll want to prepare some sort of a transcript and let them know like, hey, you know, they got an A in art, they got a B in English, or whatever you want to assign to them. And you can just create your transcript and, you know, or if you're in PAX Academy, then I'll help you with creating the transcript. We create the transcript for you. But they really don't need one unless they're going back to school or in high school, getting ready to go to college. What's the youngest age a child can get a high school diploma? That's a good question. So I think the youngest age that someone has gotten a high school diploma was like 12. That was not with PAX Academy. But yeah, I think there's been someone who started like going to school when they were like 11 or 12. Yeah, so it's possible. Alicia said, my son is in wrestling. Will he still be able to attend with public school? So that depends on your state. There are some states that will allow homeschoolers to participate in public school sports. But there are some states that don't. So I live in Maryland, and in the state where I live in Maryland, they don't allow homeschoolers to participate in public school sports, but we are actually working on passing a bill right now that will help with that issue. So we will hopefully be able to kind of fix that. But regardless, if they can't participate in public school sports, they can still do the sport just privately through like a rec league or a travel league or something like that. And so, yeah, you can absolutely still participate in sports, whether that be in the public school system as a homeschooler or outside of the public school system through rec leagues or through, travel leagues or something like that. Angela said, I'm new here. What is your PAX Academy? Hello, Angela. My name is Angela too. I'm glad you're here. Good to see you. PAX Academy is a private school that I started, is a private school for unschoolers. And if you're not familiar with the term unschooling, I recommend that you follow me and watch my videos. But basically, unschooling is a type of homeschooling where we live as though school does not exist. My children have complete educational freedom. They are able to learn what they want, when they want, where they want, how they want, why they want. And it's awesome. And they do earn diplomas just like anyone else. It's just the way that they earn their credits is going to be different. In a traditional school, not traditional, in a conventional school, in a compulsory school, kids earn credits by taking classes. It's kind of like the main way that they earn credits, by taking classes. But in PAX Academy, we give them the freedom to earn credits through 3 different ways. That's actually the same 3 different ways that they can earn credits in college. And those 3 ways are, number 1, they can take a class. Number 2, they can take a test. So that would be like an AP test or a CLEP test, where you basically study, you take the test. If you pass it, then you earn the credits. If you don't pass, then you try again. So that's taking a test. And then the 3rd way is taking your time, or colleges refer to that as portfolio credit, but basically it's credit that they earn through their real life, real world experience. So for example, my unschooled daughter, she has published 4 books. She has started 3 businesses. She just launched her 3rd business a month ago, where she is selling popsicles. And because it's summer and she likes to make healthy popsicles. So she's been researching about healthy ingredients. She's been learning about, science and how they can mix it and the chemistry of it. And she's been doing art because she designed her own logo. She's been learning about graphic design and marketing. So that's an English language arts skill. She's been doing math because she's been keeping track of how their profits and the loss and all of that other stuff. So many different things that they can learn while they're doing that. So she's learning all of these different school subjects. She's just learning it in a way that is fun and meaningful for her and for her life. Not everyone has to learn all the same things, and not everyone has to learn in all the same ways. And yet that's what we try to do in school, because that makes no sense. So that's what PAX Academy is. At what age does PAX give a diploma? So that's entirely up to you. Most of our seniors will graduate usually when they're 17 or 18 years old. Can a high schooler improve past grades in PAX Academy and get 7 credits a year to graduate? Yeah. Yep, they can. So if your child wants to replace a grade that they've gotten poorly previously, they can totally do that. So for example, if they did really poorly in an Algebra 1 class, again, think about all the different ways that they can learn or practice Algebra 1. We actually do offer all of like the core classes in high school. We offer them in conjunction with Khan Academy. So Khan Academy is a free online curriculum. It's actually the same online curriculum that I used when I was a public school teacher. We used Khan Academy. So if they want to like improve an Algebra 1 grade, then they could take the Algebra 1 class through Khan Academy, and then they could submit whatever their updated grade is, and then we update their grade. The beautiful thing about PAX Academy is that you can go as fast or slow as you want to. I've had students complete an entire year of math in 6 weeks. Like they just were super motivated, and they did an online class and they just skipped through it and they were done. I've had other students that, rather than doing like all of the whole class and like kind of cramming a class into a short period of time, I've had other students that would just do the CLEP test. They would study for a couple weeks or maybe a couple months, and they would take the CLEP test and pass it. And it's like, okay, great. If you pass the CLEP test for English, then you're earning college credit for English. So that counts for your English for high school too. So they earn credits for both high school and college. So yeah, it's incredibly flexible. There are tons of different paths to get to college or university or whatever is next for them. A lot of students too maybe don't want to go to college, so their path is going to look different. If you're not planning to go to college, then you don't have to take algebra 2. Like it's not necessary. Yeah, so like their math class might be a little bit different. Their math might look like a personal finance class, right? Learning about budgeting or saving or couponing, or I don't know, whatever their personal math is going to be that they're going to use in their real life. Every credit in high school represents about 100 hours of their real life experience. All right, so we have M said, I've been waking up in a panic that I'm not doing enough. Any ideas for this unschooling mom? I wish I could hug you. I wish I could hug you. I can so relate to that feeling. I felt like that a lot. And I think that's a very common thing for a lot of like unschooling parents to have to wrestle with, is this idea like I'm not doing enough. And I want to invite you to consider where that fear comes from. That idea that my worth is found in how much I can do, how much I can produce, how much I can achieve, how much I can prove to other people. A lot of those fears are symptoms of our own school trauma that we haven't healed from yet. Yeah. So I would invite you to dig deep into like those feelings and those thoughts and do the hard work to heal from your own school trauma. It's hard. It's freaking hard. One of the hardest things I've ever had to do in my life. But to be okay, to just be, it's hard. It's hard, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful. Like when you could get like, I am enough. I am enough. I don't have to do more. Like I am enough. My child is enough. Yeah. Kirsten said, just join. So what exactly do you do? We homeschool through Alpha and Omega Monarch, open to others. Awesome. So yeah, my name is Angela. I used to be a public school teacher. I taught in the public school system for over a decade. I'm certified in Spanish, ESOL, and special education. I have a master's degree in bilingual education, curriculum, and instruction, and I am an unschooler, which is kind of weird. I have a master's in curriculum and we don't use any curriculum at all in our learning. So we are completely free in our learning. I do run a private school for unschoolers called PAX Academy. But what I do here on TikTok is just share. I share about our life as unschoolers, and I talk with other people who are thinking about unschooling or maybe have never heard of unschooling before. And yeah, I do this. I talk with parents about unschooling. And I'm glad you're here. Noemi said, hey, what should a 6-year-old girl be learning at home? Okay, so one thing, I would remove the word should from your vocabulary. Like just like gone, should is gone. There is no such thing as should. Yeah. What should your 6-year-old girl be learning? Whatever she wants. Does PAX offer general classes as well? So we don't offer online classes, and actually I don't recommend classes at all until your kids are in high school and if that's what they're actually choosing. So if that's what your kids are choosing and they want to take classes, awesome. But if your kids are not choosing it, then don't do that. There's so many ways that your kids can learn. And I would argue that the most effective way for your kids to learn has nothing to do with the class. Like think about all the things that you as an adult have learned over the last year. I guarantee you most of the things that you've learned in the last year, if not all of them, you learned without ever taking a class or having a curriculum to learn it. Yeah. Jessica, hello, best friend. Good to see you on here. Please comment and tell me how your first couple weeks of unschooling has been. Kirsten said, I love this. Alabama has so many options. We have no laws for homeschooling. Yeah, Alabama is a great state for unschooling in. I really love it. KBH said, my son is 10 years old, but he is struggling to read. I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, I would say that struggling with reading a lot of times is a symptom of the problem of school. I can't tell you how many times I'm like, there is no faster way to destroy a child's love for reading than by sending them to school. Because when our children are in school, we force them to read books that they most of the time have zero interest in. And it's pretty awful. I mean, imagine if I showed up at your house and I was like, today, I'm going to make you read a book about knitting. And we're going to read about knitting. And then I'm going to quiz you on it. And if you fail the quiz, you're going to like fail in your whole life and it's going to be awful. And we're going to learn about knitting. And you're like, what the heck? I live in Florida. No one's knitting in Florida, you know? It would be bizarre, right? We wouldn't do that. And yet that's what we do to kids all the time. We're like, I'm going to make you read this book that you think is boring and miserable. And then we're like, then we wonder, we're like, why doesn't my kid like to read? We're like, well, maybe because you've been forcing them to read boring stuff all the time. Right. So a lot of times when kids are struggling to read, a lot of the root of that comes from them being in an environment where they've been forced to read books that they weren't interested in. And so they weren't engaging for them. And they were made to feel like they were behind. They would compare themselves to other kids that maybe were able to read faster than them. And being in an environment like that, where they're competing with other kids or they're comparing themselves to other kids, it can make them feel really awful. And then they develop all these like really negative feelings around reading. And then it just makes the whole reading process pretty miserable for them. And so when it comes to reading, to be honest, that was one of the reasons why I started unschooling from the very beginning, is I saw how many kids were miserable in school, like with reading. They hated reading. They hated reading. They hated writing. They would graduate and talk about like, I'm never going to read another book again. Like, and I was like, what the heck are we doing? Like, you should finish school and be like so excited about reading. But no, like they were leaving school and they were like miserable and never wanting to read again. I'm like, this is terrible. And I remember thinking like, the goal for me is not that my daughter would learn how to read, although of course I hope she learns how to read. But my goal for my daughter is not that she would learn to read, but that she would learn to love to read. Because knowing how to do a skill doesn't matter if you don't see the value in that skill. Like if that skill has no value for you, if it has no enjoyment for you, if there's no pleasure in that skill for you, if there's no purpose in that skill for you, it doesn't matter if you know how to do something. I know how to sew. I have no purpose for sewing. Like I don't do that, you know? It has no purpose for me, right? So like knowing how to do something doesn't matter if you don't see the value in it. And so if you have a child who is struggling to read, one of the most important things that you can do, one, stop forcing them to read. Stop forcing them to read. And the second thing that you can do is try your best to cultivate as many positive experiences with reading as possible. As many things as you can. Put subtitles on your TV. Do a read aloud at night with your kids, like you read a book to them, you know, and I would do this a lot too, especially when my kids were younger. Like they would be sitting and playing, you know, Legos or cars or playing something. And I would just grab a book. Like I would grab like a chapter book, like The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe or something. And I would sit and I would read to them while they were doing something else or coloring or whatever. So give them those positive experiences with reading. We try every night, like before they go to bed, we try to like, you know, cuddle on the couch and read a book. So try to have that be your focus. Don't force him to read. Just give him opportunities that he can have positive experiences with reading and with you. So yeah, that would be my advice for that. If he's still like struggling to read, if he's getting to be like 12, 13, 14 years old and it's still a struggle with reading, there might be other issues that might be going on, like maybe there's dyslexia or something like that. So then yes, look into, those other issues that it possibly could be. But yeah, I wouldn't stress about it. I wouldn't force it. I would just try to have him have fun with it as much as possible. Jessica said, unschooling. So Jessica just recently started unschooling. And she said, unschooling has been going amazing. My daughter is learning rocks and crystals from a company that sells on Bucket. And she is making gardens. That's beautiful. All right, Len says, in Nevada, how do I do the unschooling process? So unschooling is considered a part, like a type of homeschooling. And so what you would need to do is you need to begin by looking at your state's laws on homeschooling. And the way that you do that is you go to a website. I'm going to say it and then I'll repeat it so you can jot it down. It's called hslda.org. And I'm going to say it again. So hslda.org, that stands for Homeschool Legal Defense Association. If you go on that website, they will be able to tell you the laws for homeschooling in your state, and then you can read the laws and then figure out how you want to do. Some states will give you like multiple different options. And so you would just pick the option that you want. That's it. Kirsten said, this year, my son will be growing a garden and selling at the farmer's market, agriculture, and economy. I love that. I love that. Gosh, that's one of those things that, like, I wish that I could grow a garden, but I'm like, I can barely keep myself alive. And all the plants, I just kill them all. I just murder them all. And I don't know what my issue is. I try so hard to like have plants not die. And I just kill them all. So good luck to your son with his garden. I hope he will have much better luck than I have. Yeah, I've got nothing growing here. Although I wish I did. That's a skill that I would like to learn. Just have not done it yet. KBH said, yes, you're right. I have not thought that way until now that you're telling me this. Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. Mari said, after I register my 11th and 12th grader, or my 11th grader in PAX in June, when is the time to meet with you for a study plan? So once you enroll, I recommend that that when your kids are in high school, that you book the college and career consultation with me. Like I said, college and career consultations, I normally charge $200 for those, but PAX Academy students get a 50% discount, so it's $100 for that meeting. And then you can book that, like there's a link within the portal where you can book a college and career consultation, and you can pick it any day and time that works best for you, and then I'll get a chance to meet with you and your daughter, and we'll make like a specific plan for her for the year. Yeah, and we'll talk about kind of like what our options are and what she wants to do, what she wants to create. If you want to do that during the summer, like a lot of times parents will like do a college and career consultation like at the beginning of the year or like right before the beginning of the year. So that way they can kind of plan out the whole year. And then sometimes they'll book a second consultation at the end of the year where we talk about like their grades. We reflect on the learning that they've done, on all the work that they've done, and go from there. But again, those are totally optional. You don't have to do those, but I highly recommend them. Jessica said she had to go. All right, bye. Awesome. All right. Well, did anyone have any other questions about unschooling before I hop off? Because it's 9:45 here.
Angela, I have a question.
Yes.
Do you mind sharing the name of the unschooling group that you're a part of?
Yes. Traditional. Oh, here in Maryland?
Yes.
Yes, it's called Traditional Learning Community, TLC.
Thank you.
Mhm. Yeah, we meet in Catonsville. And so she has the program on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. If you are interested in joining their program, they're actually like not taking new students, but you can tell her that you're a friend of mine, and then you can get connected with her. We actually were in their umbrella for a long time, and she was the lady who runs it. Her name is Amy. She's wonderful. She was the one who told me like, Angela, you need to start your own umbrella, because theirs has just grown so big. And she was like, I think you'd be great to have it your own umbrella. And I was like, ah. So she was my inspiration to start my own. But yeah, it's a wonderful, wonderful community to be a part of. We really love them a lot.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions? Oh, I see a couple other questions in here. Okay. How old do you recommend to start college prep? It depends on your kids. I think you know, that's a conversation that you need to have with them and ask them like how and when they want to start preparing for that. Give them the freedom to choose. Give them the freedom to choose. They'll let you know. Esmeralda said, what do you mean when you say $600 for PAX, including the parents for the family? Yeah, so we are a private school, and the $600 deal for the family is normally for one student is $350 for one student for the whole year. But right now we have a family discount, so it's $600 for the family for a year, and that covers up to 3 students, and that could include the parents. So there are some parents that haven't gotten their high school diploma yet, and they would like to earn their high school diploma. And so if a parent would like to enroll with us in PAX Academy, then they can also earn their high school diploma through us. Marcia said, how do you explain in California unschooling to the district? You don't. You don't. Whenever talking with any like legal authorities, I don't talk about unschooling. They don't know what it is. Yeah, most people have never heard of unschooling. It's like not a commonly used term, although I hope in the future that it will be a commonly used term. I hope in the future that you can tell people that you're unschoolers and people will be like, wow, that's awesome. I would love that for the future. But as for right now, no one knows what unschooling is. That's why like so many people are here, and you can look at all my videos. Everyone's like, what the heck is unschooling? No one knows this term. So whenever you are interacting with your school district, you want to use the term that they're familiar with. So you're going to use the term homeschooling or home education if you don't like the term homeschooling, like I don't. So I would tell people I'm educating my children at home, or we do homeschooling, because unschooling is a type of homeschooling. So yeah, don't tell them that you're unschooling. They won't know what that is. All right. Any other questions? Yeah, any other questions about unschooling? I see Rooted Home Academy. Well, if you don't follow her, please do. You make really good homeschooling content and unschooling content. Carla said, that's true. When I talk about unschooling, they act like I'm crazy. Yes, I know. But we still talk about it anyway, because if we don't talk about it, then people will never learn about it. Actually, can I share with you guys something kind of crazy for you to think about? I haven't shared this with anyone yet, but y'all are here on my live hanging out with me, so I'll let you know. I actually got a phone call today from a producer for the Dr. Phil show, and they're going to be recording a show about unschooling very soon. And so they asked if I might consider being on the show. And so they invited me to go to like the next round or whatever of like I don't know, I guess they're like interviewing a bunch of different people to see who wants to go talk with them about unschooling. And so, yes, I'm one of the people that they're considering for the show, which is so cool. So I'm like, that's crazy. I might be on Dr. Phil. I'm like, how weird. Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I was like, no way. I thought it was a joke. I was like, is this a scam? I was like, are you for real? Like, Dr. Phil in a couple weeks? Really? But yeah, so we'll see. I have to make a video for introducing myself to Dr. Phil tomorrow. And then they should let me know within like a week or so if I can be on the show. So crazy. So yeah, if you think about it, please pray for me that they would like let me do it. I think that would be so awesome. I would love to like talk about unschooling on Dr. Phil, although I know like most of the people there are not fans of unschooling, but hopefully I can change their minds. Yeah, I will let you guys know. I'll let you guys know. I don't know when they'll do that. So please don't increase the rates once you get famous. No, I would not do that. I'm very deeply committed to like having the things that I do be affordable for people. I'm a single mom. I'm a single mom on a very low income. And yeah, I think like unschooling should be accessible for everyone. So yeah. The only reason why I would have to increase the rates would be if like our economy continues going the way that it is going, like where like we just no, I can't. And I really do like we're a nonprofit, and we really are like a nonprofit. I know everything is so crazy expensive nowadays. It's awful. Carla, you know what? Oh no, you're in California. Shoot, yeah, no, you're in California. No, Dr. Phil is actually located in Texas. So they would be flying me to Texas if I get accepted for the thing. Crazy. Hold on, let me go back. Someone asked a question. Oh, Sharon said, how can you start unschooling a child with autism, especially when they love the same daily routines? Yeah, so when you have a child with autism, if your child loves having daily routines, then you create new daily routines for them. But you're in charge of the routines that you create. So you would get to pick, like, in the morning, we're going to wake up and then we're going to have breakfast. And then we're going to cuddle on the couch and read your favorite book. And then we're going to go on a walk in the park. And then we're gonna, I don't know, we're gonna go run some errands, and then we're gonna go to a science center, or I don't know, whatever it is that your kid wants to do. And you could just do that. You share your life with them. We're gonna go grocery shopping, and we're gonna set up a play date with some other people to practice social skills, and we're gonna participate in this really cool field trip, or we're gonna go to a museum, or whatever it is that you guys want to do. You just create your routine and you do that. Yep. But he gets to be a part of creating it, and that's really cool. Any plans to have PAX in Virginia? So we actually do have students already in Virginia. I recommend that if you are in Virginia, I recommend that you do the religious exemption option in Virginia. If you do the religious exemption option, then you don't have to do any of the testing requirements, which is awesome. But in order to do the religious exemption requirement, you have to be homeschooling all of your kids. So you can't have a religious exemption for homeschooling and then have like 2 at home and 1 in school. So you'd have to like homeschool everyone. So if I lived in Virginia, that's what I would do. Otherwise, you can do option 1. And then at the end of the year, actually, that is something I do have to do. At the end of the year, we do have to do like an evaluation. And so that's something that like I would do for you, is that you would meet with me and then I would write a letter evaluating your child. And I'm able to do that because I have a master's degree and I'm a certified teacher. And of course, I understand unschooling. So, I have to write a letter saying that your child has made sufficient academic progress. And they have, and they do, because unschoolers learn all the time. So, yep. 2020 said, "You are a great person from what I see." Thank you. Oh, thank you for saying that. That's so kind. I appreciate that. All right, Marcia said, for the adult high school diploma, do you have to take classes, and how extensive are they? So the interesting thing about getting your diploma as an adult, you have the same 3 ways that you can earn your credits. So as an adult, if you want to, you can earn credits through taking classes, but you don't have to. You can earn the credits through taking classes, you can earn credits through taking a test, or if you want to, you can earn classes, or you can earn the credits through taking your time, or that would be counting your life experience as your academic credit. And for most adults, that's what they do. So I'll give you an example. Actually, Marcia, are you able to come in and tell me like what you do for a living? If you let me know what you do for a living, and then we could talk about how you can get your diploma through your life. And Marcia, I'm assuming if you're here that you're a mom. So for example, being a mom, we think about all the things. I don't know if you did this when you were pregnant, but when I was pregnant with my kids, I like researched everything about all the stages of development when they were in the womb. And I wanted to see like, my baby's a blueberry today, when are their hands formed? When does the heart start beating? All that and stuff. All right. So you're a newborn care specialist and a postpartum doula. Oh, wow. That's amazing. Thank you. I needed a postpartum doula. I had postpartum depression so bad. Postpartum anxiety too was terrible with my kids. So thank you for the work that you do. I needed one of you. Oh, can you hear me? Am I here? Can you all hear me? TikTok, am I alive? Okay. Yes. Okay. So Yeah, so like in the work that you do, as a newborn care specialist, think about all the different things that you have to do in your daily life for what you do. So obviously, I would feel like the obvious thing is that you learn science, right? You're dealing with newborns, you're talking about health, you're talking about their care. That is all having to do with like science, and things like that. So that would kind of be the obvious one. If you're running your own business, I'm sure you're having to know something about having to manage like the finances of your business. So that would be another credit, right? Is like the math that you use for your business. If you run a business, you also have to do some sort of marketing, advertisements, writing copy for your website, communicating with clients, responding to emails. All of that is reading, writing. All of that is practicing your English language art skills. So one credit in high school represents about 100 hours of your real life experience. So think about all the things that you've done in your life to practice English, math, science, history, art, music, health, physical education, all of those, technology, right? All the things that you've done to practice those skills. And you can count any of that as your life experience. So most adults will count their life experience as their academic credits, and so they're able to get their diplomas really fast because they're counting their experience that they've already done in their life. Is the adult diploma credited, so it's accepted for continuation to college? So yes, we do issue like real actual diplomas. Our program is accredited through the International Association for Liberated Education. Not every college is required to accept every diploma, but so far we have not had issues yet with that, which is good. But yeah, yep. So most colleges will accept like homeschool diplomas or diplomas from a private school like us. All right. Any other questions? Yeah. So it is important to know too, like no high school, not even a public school can guarantee admission into any college. I wish that I could. That would be really cool if I could. But no college, no high school is able to like guarantee admission into any college, which is why it's really important that regardless of like what you choose or how you choose to earn your degree or whatever that may look like for you, it's important that you can make sure that you look at the college that you're interested in going to and see what are the things that they require specifically in order for you to be accepted at their college. So like I said, like some colleges require you to have 4 years of a math, some require only 3. Some colleges want to see 3 years of a foreign language, some don't care. So every college is going to be different. Some colleges want to see a school that's like accredited with a particular accreditation association. Some colleges don't care. So every college is going to be really, really different. So you just have to check at like whatever college you want to go to, and then make sure that you meet whatever those specific requirements are. All right. Any other questions about unschooling? Good night. All right. Well, I'm going to hop off then. I'm going to stop the recording.